In the, again, in the mid to late 1980s, what we see is this. There's 7.0, here's 8, 7.8, all the way through 1970s, 1980. In the mid to late 1980s, 86, 87, right around in there, that number began to increase mysteriously. And it went from 7.8 to 8 to 8.23 to 8.6. At the end of 1995, the number was validated at 8.6 cycles per second. In just a few years, it had been a constant throughout the time that we had been measuring this parameter. Now, in early 1996, researchers are reporting numbers as high as 9 cycles per second. And what we're seeing is this, that as we move forward in time, this vibration is increasing, and again, it's nonlinear. The more it increases, the faster it increases.
The interesting part about the Schumann resonance is that it lies directly in the heart of the alpha brain frequency. So when one meditates and slows the mind down to the alpha level, they are literally tapping into the mind of the planet and becoming one with nature. As Mother Nature increases her vibrations, it becomes easier to align ourselves with nature, and this creates changes in us physically, mentally, and spiritually. We all still have free will to put out whatever vibrations we wish based on our thoughts and emotions, but one cannot escape the positive effects that will result from the Earth's frequency changes.
Because of the reduced adhesion, the particles of iron have certain degrees of freedom. They can move, fall into line, form figures, and almost dance, but only in obedience to the vibration imposed.
Each of us is like a leaf blowing in the wind, free to dance and sing and play, but divinely guided on our way. Water is the source of all biological life on this planet. Most people assume that we know all there is to know about it, but this is not the case. Scientists now admit that they have very little understanding of this amazing substance which we all take for granted. Water is the only substance that can exist in 3 states. It is also the only substance that expands when it is cooled. Recent scientific advancements, beginning with the work of Masaru Emoto, have discovered some of the most amazing things about water. The most profound discovery, perhaps of all time, is that water has memory, and is most highly influenced by human thought and emotion.
The consciousness of water is kind of like Professor Rustam Roy at Penn State calls an alphabet. You can give it new words and new sentences, and therefore it structures itself differently according to the information you give it.
We have carried out many experiments on the effect that quite diverse factors have on samples of water. Magnetic fields, electrical fields, various objects, and also including a human presence and human emotions. And it became clear that positive and negative human emotions are the strongest element of influence.
This example that Masaru Emoto really started, the idea of cryogenically flash freezing water after it's been exposed to emotion, music, thoughts, and different intentions. And we see, for all the people who know Masaru Emoto, he's pretty much a legend now. You see that this idea that cryogenically, instantaneously freezing water, we're freezing the structure of the information inside of water, and it gives us different architectures.
So love increases water's energy levels and stabilizes the water, while aggressive emotions reduce the energy and make radical changes in the water.
what we find is that when we look at ordinary tap water, which most of us are drinking in our cities, it just has horrible structure, horrible architecture, and it basically is robbing us of energetics.
音楽は心臓そのものですから、その音楽を水に浮かせる。
If thoughts can do that to water, imagine what our thoughts can do to us.
If we introduce this water into the human body, then that human body will assimilate this information, which may change the person's characteristics.
Intellectually, at the level of thoughts, a person who sends negative thoughts is polluting his own water, of which his body is 75 to 90% composed.
Most studies done into the frequencies of cancer viruses and other diseases in the body, there is a disharmonic. There's a disharmonic energetic. The positives on using restructured water on the human body are miraculous. For example, Perla, an immunologist in Nevada, shows us an example on Water, the Great Mystery, where we take a person with heart disease and she shows all the blood cells are all stuck together and it's almost like they can't breathe, they're suffocating. And she gives the patient a small glass of restructured water and then tests their blood only 10 minutes later. This shows you how fast this can happen. And 10 minutes later, under the microscope, the same person's blood is now all buoyant. There's electrical static charge around every blood cell. None of them are stuck together. They're all floating around. And they can breathe again, which means the body can heal.
Other people say that they have put an intent into the water to preserve the cut flowers and they do not wilt. Others say they use them to make their growing flowers bloom brighter. I have one report of a person giving it to their dog and the cataracts on the dog's eyes disappearing. I've got one major report of a person who had suffered Crohn's disease, which supposedly is incurable. For 18 years, I have an email from him that he no longer has Crohn's disease after drinking the water for 10 days.
Now it's like the research is exploding. I mean, people like Kurt Worthlitz, who won the Nobel Prize in Chemistry, Martin Chaplin, he's professor at London South Bank University. Martin Chaplin is one of the pivotal scientists and professors at a major university who's in the middle of this argument over whether water has memory and consciousness or not. And when you read his paper, which I had the pleasure to read, you see that the evidence in support of water having memory and consciousness is so overwhelming, and the arguments against it are because we don't know why and how it has memory and consciousness. And because we can't explain how it works, he says we can't even explain how gravity and why gravity works, yet we know gravity exists. The observations are consistent across the board over hundreds of researchers into this phenomenon. You can restructure water to reclaim polluted waterways, whole lakes,